Good morning, and welcome to each of you, to each and all who have gathered here this morning. We are a community of goodwill, seeking to live and love and serve the world with joy and determination. We gather here as a community of seekers. We ask questions, seek answers, and when we find them, we live them. We are co-creators on a journey to make a beloved community where all may belong. My name is Court. My pronouns are he and him. And I want to let you know that Tuesday will be the spring equinox, which officially marks the start of spring. Fiona Cook wrote in The Wheel of the Year that early spring is for buds, not blossoms. It's a yawn, a big full body stretch, and a wiggling of the toes. As the world warms and gets ready to come alive, ice is melting. The hard frozen ground begins to thaw. It's a time of softening and loosening. We made it through the darkest days of winter. Now we crack a window to clear out the stale air, and let in the fresh breeze, maybe the stale ale too, but preferably the stale air. It's normal to feel overwhelmed by change, especially since we're still processing the lessons from winter. If your energy feels pulled in too many directions, slow down. Focus on one thing, one small bud in a tree or a single bird. Take them gradually, a little at a time, even if it's tempting to try to do everything at once. This is a sacred space, made more so by your presence. We are glad that you are here, be this your first time, your third time, or your 150th time. No matter how you arrived today, bright and early, or rushing to find parking, frazzled, joyful, curious, or cautious, you are welcome here. No exceptions. Welcome is something we create together, and I invite you now to create it with me by allowing yourself to arrive fully. Settle in, wiggle those toes, adjust your body for comfort, and take a moment to arrive. Breathe in, breathe out. Arrive here, be here now. We have a few announcements. I'm not sure if Scott or Brian is going to come up to talk about the pledge drive.
Morning, everyone. I am Brian Debbink. My pronouns are he and him. I serve this congregation as your treasurer, and as I made a joke at the big event, I'm also your financial truth teller. We have a pledge drive going on. You can see that we're actually doing, it seems like, very well, right? The flames of resistance, or whatever those are getting a little spicy over there. Maybe they're a little optimistic. It is green, and I can't believe that the treasurer on St. Patrick's Day is not wearing green. Right? So we've got just a couple of weeks. When is our official end to the pledge? Oh, when I say it ends. Okay. So we've got at least a couple more weeks of our pledge drive to go. We have 50 pledge units. Last year, for reference, we had 66, I think, maybe 65 by. We had a couple more that we're counting in the fall. So we also have 12 new pledge units out of those. So that means that there's roughly 27 people who pledged last year who have not pledged. We're going to start calling you this week, including some people who are new to our congregation and maybe who haven't pledged or have pledged already. If you have, we probably are not going to call you. But if you have not pledged, we will call you. And it's not to say that we are going to ring you for money or whatever it is. We just want to check in. A lot of times these can be also pastoral conversations if there are issues going on in anybody's households, which we totally understand. You're going to hear this language a lot. I have a feeling going forward, but we are co-creators of this community, right? A lot of times we think about, Reverend Lora is amazing, and our board is doing these things, and this person who is leading, social action is doing things, and I kind of help in those ways. And when I say I mean y'all. Each of us helps in those ways that we can, even if it's just our presence on Sunday morning, which honestly is the way most people receive church in the U.S. or in the world probably. So that's totally fine. But like I said, we are co-creators of this space, and we can't do it without your pledges and your time and your talent, and of course, like I said, your treasure. A couple of numbers to throw out there. Like I said, we have 50 pledge units, and the average is about $3,000 per one of those pledge units, which is awesome, right? But we also still have $100,000 to go. So that means that I mentioned that we had those 27-ish pledge units or whatever that are unaccounted for from last year. At that average, we would need those people to give about $3,500, right? So if you have pledged and it was a flat pledge, or you did not include, and this is something that we did not, I'm kind of droning on here, but this is something that we did not communicate well. And this is one of those things where if you don't ask for what you want, you're not going to get it. I did notice that a number of people seem to use last year's pledge in the spring as kind of like their baseline, and either it was flat from there or whatever. But we were really asking, as of the big event, to have everyone include their fall fundraiser. And if you are new here today, if you're a visitor, I'm really sorry. I should have told you to close your ears. But anyway, so if you have pledged and you feel like maybe you can give more, we are, like I said, co-creators of this space, and it can't happen without you. We do have a strategic plan. I also want to announce, can I announce the thing? Okay. So this fall, winter, we had a survey, and we had small groups, and about 110-ish people, I think, responded to the survey, which is really great out of a congregation of about 150. And then we had roughly 40 people, I think, or 50 attend some listening sessions. And so we had a lot of good feedback from that. And yesterday, the board met with Maria Anderson, who is on that strategic planning task force lead. She led us through kind of processing all that information. And that's why I say you're going to hear a lot more about co-creating this space. And there's going to be vision, and there's going to be great things that we want to do as a community. And we all know that. We all want to do great things. And on April 7th, is that right? Am I getting that date right? All right, so on April 7th, there is going to be a Board Connect after service where we hear the final feedback. Like, we're going to present some things. I think it'll be sent out beforehand in text if you want to read it over first. And you guys can ask questions, give feedback, all those sorts of things. And then that'll all kind of get whirled into, and then we'll have a final presentation and approval, hopefully, of that at the congregational meeting in May. So that was a lot of announcement all at once from me. So pledge drive, please give. If you haven't, you will get called. If you have given, Scott has a QR code for the pledge form there. So find him after with his clipboard if you want to do that. And otherwise, just come and talk to us. Yeah. All right, thanks a lot.
I'll keep my announcement much shorter, Brian. Thank you. So we have a safety and security team here at South Valley that is working right now to create a safety and security plan for our congregation. We've had many different endeavors around that over the years, and this particular group is very excited because there actually is going to be funding available to make changes to our building, like new doors and things like that. But as part of that, we want to start having some trainings in our congregation about awareness. Not in a way of let's get really scared and pretend that there's a lot of threats out there, but just let's figure out how we want to be as a community and raise our sense of awareness as a community. And so if you are interested in coming to that kind of training and being part of our usher team, please come see me or Bob Scarborough, Palmer Pattison, George Melling. There's maybe some others here on that team, and talk to me. talk to us. We'll have a training for ushers on April 18th. And if there's enough people, we'll have a second training on that Saturday following that. And again, that's just a gentle sort of sense of like, let's have a plan. Let's just have a plan. So come talk to me if you want to know more about that. I think I'll just lead us into the sharing of the warmth of community. And now I realize that I should have introduced myself when I first stood up because I was planning on doing that later. I am the Reverend Lora Young, and my pronouns are she and her, and I'm a tall, red-haired woman with pale skin in a black suit and a green top. And I want to fully acknowledge and welcome those people who are joining us in our online community today. We are so glad that you are here. And I encourage you to use the chat box to talk with one another. And in this next part, especially to greet one another. So we have a tradition of greeting each other in a warmth of community. So I invite you to stand and meet one another, shake hands, touch elbows, and see someone maybe that you haven't seen in a little while or for the very first time. Chalice lighting. As we light our chalice this morning, the symbol of our faith and the light of our commitments to love and justice, receive these words of invocation. Becoming by Tito Lope Swan Uga. When the world unravels before you and even your dreams are crumbling stones, when everything you dare to touch is set on fire, and all around you is ash and smoke, remember this: rock bottom is a perfect place for rebuilding. Remember that you are your mother's daughter and your grandmother's answered prayers, a whole bloodline of women who bend in response to raging winds. There is nothing broken here, nothing damaged or discarded. Each scar is a badge of honor, each misstep a victory dance waiting to happen. You are a woman becoming, learning the complicated language of forgiveness, the intricate lessons of the universe. Your heart is just a muscle. It needs exercise. And you were born for this sort of heavy lifting. You were born one part saint, one part warrior woman. Loving yourself without shame is the most important thing you will ever have to fight for. Let us light our chalice, and you can say the words with me on your screen. We light this chalice for the warmth of love, for the light of truth, and the energy of action, and the flames of resistance. You may be seated.
So this is the time for all ages. So if you are young or young at heart, please come forward. I have a story for you. So the story I brought today is called Purplicious. So Purplicious, Pinkalicious, these are favorites in our household. So I hope you like this story as well. So Purplicious is written by Victoria Kahn and Elizabeth Kahn. I was in art class, painting a picture. "What are you painting?" asked Kendra. "A picture of a sunset," I said. "Ew, it's so ugly, Pinkalicious. Why does everything you paint have to have pink in it?" asked Tara. "Because pink's my favorite color," I answered. "Don't you know pink is passé? Passé is French for over," said Brittany. "The new color is black. All the girls like black now." "Black is in," said Beatrice during recess. "Pink is putrid," announced Pauline, while dangling from the monkey bars. "Yeah, pink stinks," added Sophia. On the bus ride home from school, no one would sit with me. "Pink is for babies and little girls. We aren't going to be friends with a baby," taunted Tiffany. "You don't have to be a baby or a little girl to like the color pink. Pink is for everyone," I said. "Even my brother likes pink." "How funny, a boy who likes pink." Everyone on the bus laughed. "Isn't it time you moved beyond pink?" After school, no one would play princess with me. I went to my room and counted all my pink things. I had a pink phone, a pink crayon, a pink piggy bank, pink underwear, a pink tiara, even a giant pink bunny. I had more than 100 pink possessions. The only black thing I had was an ugly spider from Halloween. I wrote with my pink pen in my pink diary. Monday, pink is perfect. Tuesday, I am who I am, and I like pink. Wednesday, pink makes me happy, but mean girls make me sad. Thursday, pink is a lonely color. Friday, pink has no purpose. On Saturday, Mommy, Daddy, Peter, and I went to get ice cream to cheer me up. "Pinkalicious, what would you like?" asked Mr. Swizzle. "Magenta, mint mango? Or perhaps you would enjoy pink passion fruit paradise. Today's special flavor is pleasing pomegranate punch." "No thanks, I'll just have vanilla," I sighed, looking around to see who might be from my school. "How about you, Peter? Would you like your usual plum pink perfection?" "Yes, thank you," said Peter. "You're such a baby, Peter. Pink ice cream is for sissies," I said. "Pinkalicious, aren't you going to eat your ice cream?" asked Mommy. "Well, I'm not actually that hungry." The ice cream was bland, and I couldn't possibly eat it. "Pinkalicious has the blues," Daddy said that night, when I wouldn't play ping pong with him. "What does it mean when you have the blues?" I asked. "It means that you feel sad. Why do you feel sad?" "No one wants to play with me because I like the color pink. All the girls like the color black now, and I don't." "Are you sure all the girls like black? Maybe there are other kids who like pink." "Everyone hates pink. You don't know anything." She ran to her room. "I'm the only one in the whole wide world who likes pink. I am all alone. No one understands me," I said to myself. On Monday, I noticed a girl in art class. She was painting a beautiful picture. "What are you painting?" I asked. "It's a picture of a cake, but the blue from the frosting doesn't look right. I think I need some pink, and then it will be perfect." "Really?" I asked. "You like pink too? Don't you think pink is for babies?" "Pink is perfect," she answered. "Watch this, and you'll see why." She mixed the pink paint into the blue, and the frosting turned purple. "Pink is powerful," she said. "Look, it turned the blue into purple." Purple is pretty," I said. "Not just pretty, it's purplicious." Thank you so much. So now we'll sing the children out. And if you have a cushion, if you could bring it back to the front and put it back into the box.
Good morning. My name is Lorri Quigley, and my pronouns are she and her. I'm a little nervous, so I'm going to take a deep breath. So this is my South Valley story. I did not start out as a Unitarian. I'm a Salt Lake native, and I grew up in the predominant religion. But I gradually came to realize that I no longer felt comfortable in my childhood faith. I stopped attending services in my early 20s. And I did not attend a church again for nearly 30 years. I did not feel a need for any kind of organized religion. I kept many of the good things I had learned as a child, and I came to understand that I could be a good person, a good teacher, a good parent, and a good member of society without going to church. It was my children who found South Valley when they were in high school. I began attending regularly in 2001, so I have been here for more than 20 years. I remember being pretty scared when I first walked through that front door, wondering if this community that had served my kids so well would have a place for me. As the luck would have it, the first few Sundays I attended were the start of the pledge drive. Can I be honest? I had a kind of a negative reaction. I grew up in a church that expected monthly tithing payments, no matter what your personal financial circumstances were. And I remember the pain my parents and grandparents went through when they were on strike or having other problems, and it was a really hard choice. So I thought, oh great, here we go again. They're all the same. But I had been so impressed with the religious education program and what it had done for my children and the bridging ceremony I had attended that I thought, let's stick around and see what this is all about. And I'm so glad I did, because I found a home. I found small ways to become involved at first. I brought food for potlucks. I helped with the interfaith hospitality network that we were hosting at the time. And I even forced myself to go downstairs for coffee hour, which is really scary for an introvert like me. Over the years, I've had the opportunity to participate in many of the committees that make South Valley work. I have discovered leadership skills that I didn't even know I had. But the main reason I came here 20 years ago is because I felt a need to be a part of a community where I could develop friendships with people who shared my values, and yet a community that might challenge me to grow intellectually and spiritually. A community where I might be of service to others, and a community that would support me in hard times. This past year, I have learned just how important being a part of a community is. In a few weeks, it will have been a year since my beloved daughter, Michelle, passed away. On that April morning, when we were trying to comprehend the reality that she was gone, my neighbor called and said, "What can I do to help?" My first thought was, "Please call my minister." In those few weeks, Phil and I were so numb with grief that we could barely function. But we had support. Reverend Lora came and listened. And that was so important. As I look around the sanctuary, I see so many dear friends here at South Valley who called, sent messages and cards, brought food, offered help, and listened. Then Reverend Lora helped us plan a beautiful celebration of life for Michelle. And again, so many of you were here to help. I have felt that love and support all year as Phil and I continue to grieve and to heal. I will be forever grateful to this beloved community for being here for us. So that's my South Valley story. That's why I'm still here more than 20 years later, and why I contribute my time, what talents I have, and my treasure to do my little part to make sure that South Valley is still here when another person who needs love and support and challenges and community enters through those doors. Thank you.
My name is Susan Azagiri, and my pronouns are she and her. And I'm here to talk a little bit about Bishnu, who's a student that we have been sponsoring for some years now. Across the world, almost 8,000 miles away, is a very bright 13-year-old boy named Bishnu Dayaram Kapadi, who, not unlike children everywhere, loves to draw, play ball games, fish, and ride his bicycle. His family is very poor and estimated earnings less than $900 a year and from the lowest caste. He lives in a village with his parents and 5 brothers and sisters, and his father has been ill in recent years. Because Bishnu is exceptionally bright, he could recite multiplication tables in rapid fire at a very young age. He was selected by the American Nepali Student and Women's Educational Relief Charitable Organization, ANSWER for short, for educational sponsorship when he was just 9. ANSWER had broken their policy of accepting students no longer than 10 years old, but they saw how bright he was and wanted to help this family. Through ANSWER, our South Valley community has sponsored Bishnu's education for over the past 5 years, and our Social Action Council aims to continue this sponsorship as Bishnu continues to learn and grow. As part of the program, we have the opportunity to exchange letters with Bishnu twice a year, and several of our young people have written letters over these past 5 years. You'll find some of them on the bulletin board on your way out to the foyer. And Brenda just showed me today, we just got one this week, so here's the latest letter from Bishnu, and a latest picture from him, and he always sends us a drawing as well. So it's a really fun way to connect with him, and we've been able to learn a little bit about their festivals and just sort of the differences that he experiences compared to what the kids experience here in our country. And though COVID was a bit of a hiccup in Bishnu's education, as it was everywhere in the world, Bishnu continues to work hard and is doing very well in school. Now, a little bit about ANSWER. Since 2001, they have helped over 1,700 students, all the way from age 10 or 9 in Bishnu's case, clear through some college. And several of the graduates are working in medicine, law, engineering, banking, social work, public health, pharmacy, dentistry, forestry, agriculture, and it goes on. And a little bit about this organization, the founders were in Nepal and spent some time there, and they noticed that the most effective way to help the widespread poverty in that country would be to help young people and women gain an education that would provide them skills and knowledge to pursue a fruitful livelihood. And they learned that by helping even just one person in a family can lift that entire family out of poverty. So aiming for success over the long term, Answer provides not just tuition funds, but also student and family support, from grade school through college. So thank you.
This community, our church, and its many ministries are only made possible by the gifts you give of your time, your talent, and your treasure. Many of you pledge monthly to support our work, and for this, we are grateful. Your gifts help to ensure that we are able to live our values of love and justice in the world outside. We've already talked about how we're sharing our offertory this month with Vishnu, and I'd like to ask the ushers to come forward. Should we say the words now? Okay. So I'd like to ask you to say the words with me. They're printed in our order of service. Sorry. We are this church, are its hands, its heart, its voice. Together we share the wealth of this community and sustain it with our gifts. We now accept the offering. For those at home, you are invited to give using the giving link in the online order of service.
Vittoria, 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 mio cuore, non lagrimar più, non lagrimar più, e sciolta d'amore la fiel servitù. Vittoria, Vittoria, mio cuore, non lagrimar più, e sciolta d'amore la fiel servitù, e sciolta d'amore la servitù. Già lampiato ad anni fra stuolo di sguardi, con vezzi bugiardi, di spose gli inganni, le frodi, gli affanni, non hanno più loco del crudo suo fuoco e spento l'ardore. Vittoria, 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 mio cuore, non lagrimar più, non lagrimar più, e sciolta d'amore la fiel servitù, e sciolta d'amore la servitù.
I'm new here, both to the congregation, but also to Utah. My wife and I moved here 2 years ago with our elementary-age daughter. When we moved, I quit my job to be a stay-at-home parent. This is a new journey for me, and this reading resonates with thoughts I've had since immersing myself in this new life. I offer it from a place of love, not authority. The reading is lifted from The Dance of the Dissident Daughter. It's written by Sue Monk Kidd. As long as we have a divine father who is able to create without a divine mother, women's creative acts are viewed as superfluous or secondary. And as long as the feminine is missing in the divine, men would continue to experience entitlement and women would be prey to self-doubt and disempowerment. It was that simple. Internalizing the divine feminine provides women with healing affirmation that they are persons in their own right. They can make choices. They are worthy and entitled and do not need permission. The internalization of the sacred feminine tells us our gender is valuable and marvelous thing to be. It suggests the goodness of female sexuality and the equal authority of the experience of women. The author continues, "As I spilled these thoughts across the page in my journal, I recalled a story a woman had told about her 6-year-old daughter. The child, freshly home from Sunday school, was reporting to her mother what she'd learned that day about God. Over and over, she referred to God as He. Her mother asked, 'Why do you say He, Ashley?' 'Because God is a man, Mommy.' 'But why is God a man?' Ashley thought a moment. 'I guess because God thought that was the best thing to be.' There's something infinitely sad about little girls who grow up understanding, usually unconsciously, that if God is male, it's because male is the most valuable thing to be. This belief resonates in 1,000 hidden ways in their lives."
If humans were mushrooms, finding a date would be much easier. Whereas we muddle by with just 2-ish sexes, the fungi have somewhere between 17,000 and 36,000 sexes, all of which can mate with each other in a mysterious process involving underground fronds. This fact has fascinated me for some time now because one of the many questions I have about this is, what or who might God be in such a system as that? God certainly cannot be male or female or non-binary or even transgender or gender fluid in such a cosmology as that of the mushroom world. God must be something entirely and altogether different. Okay, just making sure my mushrooms weren't up there yet. It is clear to me that any idea that we may have picked up along the way, that sex and gender are settled categories in the universe, is completely false. Thus, the idea that there is some natural, immutable, or God-ordained order of relations between the 2-ish sexes of humankind and the power associated with them is also rather suspect. And one does not have to rely on mushrooms for proof of this concept. The daily observable behaviors in our human societies and the historical evidence of massive and concerted efforts to suppress the autonomy of women and anyone who dare deviate from the standard gender binary is sufficient all on its own. Even the fact that we are in the midst of Women's History Month is itself proof of this simple fact that the patriarchy exists. Patriarchy, we know, is a system created and honed and entrenched, resisted, undone, and unraveled by people. It's a system that daily wreaks havoc on us all, but especially on people raised as girls, everyone living as women, or those who find themselves in between the fixed cultural categories that have ruled our social order for so many millennia. Systems and structures, we also know, are by their nature difficult to see, because that is an essential aspect of a system or structure in the first place. I, of course, have never seen my own skeleton, but I am confident that it exists. It is the same with the social and cultural structures that give shape, support action, govern direction, and direct outcomes in our society. We may not be able to observe them directly, but we see their impact just fine. But you all know this already, so why preach to the proverbial choir here? For 3 reasons, at least. 1, speaking the truth of women and girls' lives matters. Women and girls have had it a little bit better in the United States in these last 100 years because our predecessors dared to speak the truth about women's and girls' lives. And yes, I am using the very binary gendered language here on purpose because that is how the damage was delivered. And I wish for all the former girl children in this room whose spirits were suppressed like mine was, who grew up in a culture that devalued them for who they were and are and bear the scars of surviving the patriarchy, to hear a woman speak the truth from a pulpit. That your life matters. It always has. I am here in this pulpit because other women before me worked hard to make it possible. And my ability to be in this pulpit has never been guaranteed. Unitarian Universalist women like Olympia Brown gained the pulpit in the 1830s. The poorest pulpits in the Midwest that men did not want, but still, they held them. And then they were pushed out again. And there was almost no women ministers in our movement for 100 years. In the 1950s and 1960s, a few women fought to be ordained and were again successful. And I had the honor of meeting one of these women who was ordained in the 1960s in 2017 as she celebrated the 50th year of her ordination. The story of courage and grit that was required of her to survive the rampant, flagrant, and downright appalling sexism by her male Unitarian Universalist colleagues remains in my heart to this day. We are making progress as a movement and as a culture. Women fill about half of our pulpits in Unitarian Universalism right now, but most of the big pulpits are still held by men. And it took until 2017 for the UUA presidency to be held by a female. And the reason it was finally filled by a female was that the nominating committee only allowed female-identified people to run as candidates. They needed to ensure that there would be no continued error in that process. That is a truth that requires naming. The Reverend Susan Frederick Gray was the first woman president of the Unitarian Universalist Association, and she once said that the sexism that she faced from her counterparts in other denominations was one of the most painful aspects of her 6-year term. And our current president, the Reverend Dr. Sophia Bentoncourt, has been an outspoken and powerful voice in the fight for justice for people for decades. So speaking the truth about the lives of women and girls, whenever that identity began, really matters. Second, talking about this matters right now because there is a concerted effort to roll back and eliminate the gains of every social justice movement of the last 150 years. From the rolling back of voting rights to bans on books and transgender girls in sports, the elimination of access to safe and legal abortions, a terribly misguided and rudely presented bathroom bill that was said to be protection of women, but really just penalizes and makes more vulnerable to attack our transgender brothers and sisters and siblings. These things are happening. And I would, of course, like to also include the decades-long blocking of the Equal Rights Amendment, which our own Lucy Malin moved to Utah in the 1970s to work on. Thank you, Lucy. I suspect you're online today. All of these efforts to erase, suppress, and otherwise undo these critical gains that make life more bearable for all of us need to be named and resisted. Black, brown, Indigenous people of color, transgender folks, women, girls, and children are being targeted by legislation and rhetoric meant to suppress, deny, limit, incarcerate, underpay, underhouse, and underfeed. There is also the truth that no matter how hard you and I try to parent, mentor, and empower girl children to be strong, resilient, and brave, the reality remains that you have to do that so that they will be able to survive in this system. So it is important that we name it in this community so that we know what we are up against and who our co-creators and co-collaborators really are. My hope is also that this community, by naming such a thing as this, will be better able to stay focused on the policies and the practices that will actually help, rather than further isolate us from the worst outcomes. And my hope is to remind each and all of you just how strong and resilient and powerful and kind you really are. However it is that you identify, whether you are an ally or a supporter, or you yourself are identifying as female at this time, either from birth or from discovering it along the way as your true identity. We are all necessary for this work. And that brings me to the third reason that I think is important to talk about gender and theology. We are living in a male as God and therefore men are God society. And while I am not sure which came first, the work of unraveling it and transforming it is the same path. When we are surrounded, oh goodness. Okay, no, I didn't get out of order. I thought maybe I dropped my pages. When we are surrounded by images of the divine that reflect only one kind of person, one specific gender, it sets us up for trouble theologically. For if only male-identified bodies are sites of the holy and the sacred, then we can do as we wish with the female body. And we have. Any body that is associated with the feminine, gender fluid, non-binary, transgender, and female. If only male bodies are the sites of the holy and are sacred, then we may do as we wish with female bodies. And that is the root of the patriarchy. It is the DNA that directs our societal skeletons to grow into the shape of oppressive structures. And to those of you who are perhaps secretly congratulating yourselves for being atheist or humanist, I would caution you about that stance. Those men who resisted the presence of my female predecessor in the 1950s and 60s, they have been some of our most revered humanist theologians in our movement. That is just true. Now, scholars have done a lot of work to uncover and reveal the ways in which images of the feminine divine have been written out and edited out of the text, and they are teaching us how to listen for the stories of the feminine divine in those sacred texts, and they are inviting us to write new stories of the feminine. And that is really important, this opportunity to write new stories of the feminine divine. Remembering the feminine divine, restorying it, allows us to reimagine it. And reimagining the feminine, going from one to two genders, allows two-ish genders, allows us to begin the restorative justice work for the female body. Restoring female kind to full life, a life of dignity, worth, autonomy, and joy. Everyone in the liberal persuasion gets this inherently and understands the benefits. And is it not the ultimate test of any theology, its impact on the body? Does it affirm life or does it limit life? A theology that has at least two genders is better than one. But we're Unitarian Universalists, and we know that's not enough. We know that we are not done yet because mushrooms. Imagine with me, as best you can, what it might be like to have 27,000 images of God and growing. That each and all are capable and compatible with one another through a mysterious process of underground fronds. 27,000 or 330 million or 12 billion images of God, each compatible with one another in a mysterious process of underground connection. And as you imagine this, know this: we're already on our way. Our gender fluid and genderqueer advocates, storytellers, justice workers, politicians, and yes, queer theologians just like myself have been writing about, thinking about, and delivering new images of God for our consideration and adaptation for millennia now. Queer theologians, activists, justice workers, and human beings have been around forever. We have always been here. We have always been here. And our work, your work, the collective work, is gaining ground. That is in part why we see such a strong backlash these days. For those that have paved the way before me and those that we are paving the way before that will come after us, and this current moment that is ours to shape and mold and participate in, this is, I think, the purpose of a congregation such as this: to participate, to respond, and to join, and to celebrate one another along the way. At least I hope that's the work of this congregation, because otherwise I'm in the wrong profession. So I invite you in this morning and in this moment, as we come to the close of our worship, to just think, what would your version of God look like if it could be one of 27,000? Amen.
All right, we're going to sing this through twice. Please stand as we're going to sing. Hymn number 16. When
as we extinguish our chalice and receive the benediction. Thanks for playing with that song with me, by the way. It's my favorite from high school when I was in the girls' choir. We extinguish our chalice, but not the warmth of love, the light of truth, or the energy of action, and we hold each other in our hearts until we meet again. Be good with one another, and be good to one another. The world is a better place because you are in it, and let us live as if that is the truth every day. Please be seated for the postlude.
To the sky from the earth and lofty flight, from the hills so green in the blush of spring, so away with thee shall I fly from this place to a land so far away. Softly now with the dawn I will ride with the wind o'er the hills through the mist on the wings of thee. Spirit fly to the cloud up above. Spirit fly